Alright, so looks like the stream went down. It's been happening, you know. It's unfortunately been a regular occurrence, and I have to consider what's going on. I've spoken to my ISP. They tested the equipment. Everything seems to be fine, which is more frustrating because I never know when it happens. I'm not sure when it happened, so I don't know when it cut off, and I won't know until I kind of end the stream and go back and look. So I apologize for that. Yeah. Hey, do you know when the stream dropped? I happened to just look up and noticed that the stream had stopped. I don't know when it cut off, which is really unfortunate. But incidentally, we should connect. I want to talk about a couple things, actually. So if you want, you should text me, like, what's your day look like tomorrow? Will you have time to speak at some point? Oh, good. All right, good. So it got to the end. That's the point. Okay, good. Because I was going to do some readings and then apply the algorithm. And then I looked up and realized that nobody was here and that I was speaking to, you know, I was calling out to the wild and hearing back nothing. I called up and said, is anybody here? And I called down from above, I'm here. And what I heard was from below, nobody's here. So I stopped the stream and started it back up, and there you were. But yeah, so you should text me so that we can talk, because there's a few things I want to discuss with you. And Shinam, what's going on? When will I get married? When will you get married? Well, that's a great question. Let's answer that. Shinam wants to know about the matters of love. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the love doctor is in the house. So let's see what we can see here. When will you get married? Well, first of all, we're going to apply 2 = 3 = 0. Sprain my ankle. Oh, no. Cool. I mean, I'm sorry that you hurt yourself, but cool. It's like, you know, little break, and it forces you to stay off your feet. So the doing that you're going to do is going to be like close proximity doing, and like talking doing, and like thinking doing, and that's cool. That's good stuff. So so what we're going to do is we're going to shuffle some cards, and we're going to look at, for Shinam, when, right? That was the question. When will I get married to my boyfriend? When he buys you a ring. No, okay. So, you know, what we've been talking about is the algorithm, which is that every 2 has a third. When will I get married? What is the opposite of that? What is marriage but union? What is the opposite of union? Separation. When implies it hasn't happened yet. The opposite of that is it's happened. So the opposite of when will I get married is and now those are 2 sides of the same coin. And there's another opposite, which is the actual truth to the question. The question is not when will I get married, or we're apart already. Neat. All right, let's take that one. There's a waiting. And what that waiting is that there's a level of a fear that this time's going to be just like the others, and the others weren't good. And so that there's a fear of the separation of the past. All the pasts were separations, and they're worried about the future marriage being a separation, so it's kind of holding it back. Although there is a love there, and it's there. it's sort of this dichotomy of being like, yeah, what we have is good thing, but then there's this fear of that, like, yeah, but it could be a loss. And so you're stuck in between those two things. And what you have to recognize is that it's not about having the fear of loss or wanting to be together. It's recognizing that there never was a separation. And the fear that you have is actually just born in your mind. It's not real. Now that's an interesting question. That's a little bit better than when, right? Because what I was going to answer is the when you will get married is essentially when you're able to work through that thing that's preventing. Basically, you want to put divine mind into the heart, right? So instead of the fear of your own mind driving the idea of, yes, we have this love, but I'm afraid to take the step because of past loss, now, or him, we'll look at, will the marriage be successful? Because that's a great question. And what we're talking about here, too, is the moon in Cancer. So it's the idea of there being kind of like an internal discernment and kind of not being able to decide that. Like, being stuck between two ideas because you're mulling it over. Now the question is will it be a successful marriage? That's a great question. Successful marriage. A successful marriage is a failed departure. Successful marriage, failed departure. What's the third? An unsuccessful and a successful marriage and separation. Never having been apart. You know, it's funny, you don't have to apply the algorithm too long until you keep getting to the same answer, right? It leads to the same answer because that's the only truth. There is only one truth, and that one truth is we are never apart. So the point is that seeking love of the body is okay, but apply temperance to that. And recognize that the only love that actually matters is the love of the self, which is everyone. Once you realize that we're all the same little shattered piece of that mirror that broke on the way down, and we're all looking at multiple reflections of ourselves that look different, we start to treat each other different. And the kind of love that we seek changes. This is the Lovers. The answer to your question is the Lovers. The idea of the Lovers is to, on the surface, the idea is the warning of temptation. How the marriage will be is the idea that there's a distraction. The distraction is mental in nature. This is the devil, and the devil is only able to affect your mental state. The devil does not have control over your life, it has control over your mind. What needs to be done here in order to avoid this distraction, meaning that one's looking at the other person and the other person's looking elsewhere, and so communication can't take place. The Lovers is the idea of what is it that, who are you? Are you the lover or the beloved? Are you the target or are you the observer? And that's the difference here. And then we'll get to you in a sec there, yes. And then we have the devil here, which is the warning that, or the truth that we typically have to be careful when we are feeling with our own mind. Feeling with our own mind is a dangerous game because the mind is controlled by the ego. And the ego does not have your best interest in mind. The ego cares about itself and its motivations, and those are not aligned with yours. And the ego is very powerful because it speaks in your voice. It convinces you that you are the one making the choice. And so whenever we're looking at issues that are related to our mental state, we have to look at it from the respect of our higher self's love of the heart. So we don't look at the mental stuff through our mind, we look at the mental stuff through our heart. So what I mean is that when you're approaching this situation related to what this distraction is, there's something that's affecting the mind. And it might also have something to do with this Four of Cups. In fact, I believe it does strongly. And what I'm talking about here is the idea that that Four of Cup is a distraction. It's looking away from the thing that you're supposed to be grasping because you're focused on these other things. And what are those other things? Past pain in relationships, past failures in this communication. And that's keeping you in the state of the devil. What that means is that you are stuck in a place that you feel like this is as good as it gets, and so I'm just going to stay here instead of, maybe trying to do better in the situation or trying to find the better mode here. And the way to get out of here is to very simply realize that that's what's happening and kind of like get out of your head into your heart, listen to your mind emotionally, listen to your heart mentally, and then find the opposite. So whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking, realize that those two things are the same, and then find the opposite, and that's the voice of your truth. And that's what lets the devil disappear. And so, as far as the distraction here, it still is that past pain. And it's the same thing with the Lovers, right? And in the Rider-Waite system, too, it's very elegantly displayed, where you have a person looking at the other and the other one's looking up, like they're not even meeting eyes. That's the only card in the deck that's really love is the Two of Cups. Well, of the small cards. The Two of Cups is love. The Lovers is a warning of lust, a warning of temptation, and the deeper meaning is not really relevant here, but you get the gist. So what I would say with respect to how the marriage will go is that, again, there needs to be work done here. Well, at first the question was, will he marry you? And the answer was yes, but there's some work that needs to be done. And it's also included and carries over into the relationship here. And that's this Four of Cups. The images of somebody sitting on a tree with their arms crossed, angry at the world that they didn't get what they want. All these past cups that they're looking at. When the divine is holding a cup out with the truth in it, ready to pour into your brain, and you won't receive it. And so the answer is, take the cup. Meaning that there is a truth in your heart that you're ignoring in your mind, and you need to let it in. And what that truth is something along the lines of the why. Why you crave the connection. Is it love? Because if it is, then that's a good thing. And I see that there is a connection here, and these are positive cards. It's a question of saying that, like, how can we make it what it's supposed to be? And the way to do that is to make sure that you're coming from the right place, meaning that your motivation is to see in them everything that they need and give it to them, and for them to see in you everything you need and give it to you, and to want that as the goal of the relationship is to let you grow, you let them grow, and then you've got a rightness, okay? And that rightness is what's going to allow communication to flow, and that even though things are going to pop up that you guys don't agree on, or things that you can weather it easily because you recognize, again, that is your other. That is you're looking at and talking to, and that's you talking back. And when the words from the self go through the abyss, they get swapped. And when you hear negativity, that's yourself saying positivity. Take the negativity that people have talked to you in the world with and realize that. When you hear the voice from below saying that you're wrong and you're bad, that's your voice from above saying you're good. You got this. Well, happiness is a choice. Happiness is the result of knowing yourself. Happiness is the result of releasing the stuff that you aren't, that we're carrying. I know that very well because my card is the Ten of Wand, and that is carrying other people's wills, doing their will instead of your own. And so what happiness ultimately is the junction between you asking for what you want to the universe and then getting it. Only in the middle there, where those two fingers meet, is happiness. Once you get what you want, happiness reduces until you're not happy anymore and you're seeking something else. So happiness is a state of receiving what you asked for. But what you asked for is an answer. Questions and answers are the same thing. What you need to do is realize questions and answers are the same, and instead of looking for the answer, look for the truth. When will happiness come to you is not the right question. Because the answer to that is the truth. Happiness happens when you allow it in. If happiness is the junction where you get what you want, you put out a want and you receive it, then put out a want that is constantly received. And that want should be your true self, so that joy just comes to you. And the work to do that's actually kind of easy. It's just a matter of walking through those steps. Okay? All right, so that said, I hope that helped everybody kind of get some insight into the process. We threw a couple cards, right? But really applied the ideas that we're talking about. That's why this deck is so effective, because it is the tarot, but at the same time, it's also... it's the system. It's all about the system. And so, you know, the truth is out there. No, it isn't. The truth is in here. Who is it that's listening to this? God is listening to this. Who is talking right now? God is talking. I don't know if people remember this picture. It's so profound when you let it in. Absolutely. Let's take a look at yes. I love that name. Always. Always, always, always. That's what I've mentioned over and over and over again. Your soul is always speaking to you. There's never a time that it isn't. And it's incumbent upon us to hear it. And the way that we do that is to not listen with our ears. And the way you hear the voice of your higher self is with the heart. You don't hear it in the mind. You don't hear it in the body. You don't hear it in the spirit, which is, you may think is the case. But the reason you don't hear it in your spirit is that the spirits are aligned. The spirits, the higher self and the lower self, are aligned. The pentacles are aligned. The body of the higher and lower are aligned. The soul of the higher and lower are aligned. It's the mind and heart that aren't. You hear the mind of God in the heart. You feel the love of God on your thoughts. So when you're trying to talk back, you don't talk to the mind, you talk to the heart of God. You don't feel to the heart. You don't share love to God's heart. You share love to divine mind. This is the technique for communicating with the self. When you're attempting to listen, when you're hearing the soul, when you're talking to the soul, you use this one. And you'll discover that that doesn't work. And so the way that you go about the proper communication is with the correct code. And this is open communication. This is the recognition of both selves as one, and so you just talk openly. Okay? But that said, to answer your question, that's you know, with respect to God talking, that's your voice. And the reason that we can't hear it is we try to hear it with the wrong sense. So let's look at your question here. Let's see here. Will Alex work through what needs to get worked through to buy me a ring? Also, will I work through what I need to work through too? Okay. Well, let's take out the couple of words of will I. Because the fact that you're asking the question means that you're kind of not necessarily looking at will I do it, but more looking at how should you do it? Right? Will I achieve this goal? Well, do you wanna? Do the work, and it'll get done, right? Take the steps. But no, all kidding aside. So what I'm going to do is to just switch the energy of the question a little bit into what does Alex need to do to work through the things that he needs to work through? That's, I think, a little better, right? What's holding him back? Alex. Work. Money. Money through work. It's also the idea of the cogs in the wheel, meaning that you need to be one of the cogs. If you take that cog out, none of it works. And the reason that it's not working is that you're not participating. What he needs to do is participate. And further, we're talking about Capricorn in Mars, which is the idea of there being too much of an eager to pleaseness. But there is a resentment that forms from it. So basically, he takes on a lot and resents that. And so he's checked out. Feeling like, you know, I do my part, I see other people not. Like, I know there's a dynamic there that's because of that Capricorn energy. Not in him personally, but in the circumstance. Let's take a look at what is causing this mental state. These are very interesting because the way these energies flow. This is the act of listening. This is the act of speaking. See how it's like tapered down? I've always envisioned it that way. And then this is the act of speaking. So she is listening in the heart and speaking the body. He is hearing the body and then speaking the heart. But either way, what we're looking at here is the water of air. Or of earth, rather. Which is essentially, whenever you're dealing with water, it's the emotional part. Of the system. The cups are also in a state of reception, but she's also not only in a state of reception, she's in a state of taking the feelings and making them physically manifest, because she's the pentacle. So basically, there was some type of thing that occurred here with him where he received a gift from a woman to get the ball rolling, but something went wrong. And so this is the thing that led to this, and this is the outside influences of that, okay? Lust. This is the card of strength, but it's a little different than that in the Thoth system. Like the Crowley Thoth, the Hermetic, any of the systems that aren't the Rider-Waite Golden Dawn, which called it strength. The idea here is you've done a lot of work, and because of that, you've built up strength. The courage to do the work emerges out of necessity, but then when you're going through and you're successful, the courage isn't necessary anymore and it disappears, but the energy that was raised is still there and it gets turned into something else. What this looks like is that he's distracted by future possibility. Like he's too busy. He's sort of like missing the trees for the forest. You know, he's pointed at the moon and missing everything in between. And so sometimes you have to just, you know, I understand that you want to be a billionaire next month, or that you want to like grow fast, or that you want to have whatever this goal is. I understand. But the work that needs to be done is to do what needs to be done.